Hello folks! Those of you who may know me may know that I quite like symmetry. I like things leading into other things and things being in their all right place. It's why I'm so into the hobby, do you know what I mean? Or one of the reasons I'm so into the hobby. I like organisation. Call me autistic or whatever, but just how I am. So, when a new year starts, I think it's a good time to do my last Games Workshop rant for a little while. I want to sign off on talking about Games Workshop simply because I want to give the company, I want to give the hobby some time to generate more news, to generate more things, because I think I've spoken about pretty much everything that I want to speak about, and at risk of repeating myself all of the time, I think this is a good place to draw a line in the sand and say, listen, this might be the last GW video for a while, fingers crossed, don't disappoint me GW, don't do anything stupid in January 2025, right? This will be the last one, rounding out the arguments, rounding out the opinions, so the lexicanum of Northern Exile's thoughts on where Games Workshop is and what it's doing right now is finished off for a little bit until they do something else that we can talk about, right? That's generally what we're going to be doing today. And my theme for today, and this is an ad hoc video, so there is no script for this one. I'm sitting off on New Year's Eve, wondering what to do with my time, and I thought, you know what, I've been reading a few articles on Games Workshop and their business practices and how successful they have been over the past couple of years, and I thought, you know, this would make a really good video, so maybe I'll make this the last one for a bit on Games Workshop, and I'll come on without a script and just ad-lib my thoughts on where I think Games Workshop is going. And I'll be honest with you, I nearly didn't make this video, because when I thought about what I had to say, it kind of came off as like a Debbie Downer sort of a thing, because my main point is that whilst Games Workshop is incredibly successful right now, I don't think that success translates to us. Us as in the people who've been here from the start, right? The people who've been loving Warhammer 40,000 for 10, 15 years. Now, please don't let me exclude you if you've just gotten into the hobby. There are many of you that I know have just gotten into the hobby who love the hobby for the same reasons the old greybeards do. I sincerely hope you understand that, right? I know that, right? Just because you've been in the hobby for a year, 2 years, 6 months, 2 months even, it doesn't mean that this doesn't apply to you, right? You might have fallen in love with the hobby for the same reasons we all did, okay? But one thing is for certain, what I want to get out the way first and foremost, I don't think change is inherently bad, okay? I am of the opinion that Warhammer 40,000, as it was over the past 10 to 15 years, will always be around as long as there's guys like us, like me, you know, the old greybeards, the people who like grimdark. You know, who are we, right? We love our grimdark settings, right? Sci-fi settings. We love the fact that the Imperium's really gothic and really out there and really unique as a faction, right? There's nothing really like the Imperium in fiction. There are lots of things that are 10% similar, right, that the Imperium borrows from, but there's nothing quite like it. That's when other people say that the Imperium just copies what's in Dune are wrong, right? It isn't. The actual idea of there being a human Imperium ruling the galaxy, yeah, that's in Dune, but if you look at the Imperium in Dune and the Imperium in 40k, they are not the same, right? That's what 40k does. It's a genius setting that takes 10% from here, 10% from there, and mixes them all up into a big whole that's utterly unique. So all of these different fan bases complain that Games Workshop copied their thing to make 40k, which is untrue, right? Games Workshop got inspiration from history and from other settings, and they combine them all together into a single whole. That's not plagiarism, that's not copying, that's just creating something cool. There's nothing new under the sun, and Games Workshop are a really, really, really good case study in finding your own voice and making something cool. That's what I say to writers all the time. Don't stop writing your work just because it seems like it's been written before. Dude, find your own voice. Twist it. Make it your own. Okay? Have elves and dwarves in your setting. Yes, they're in every other setting out there, but you can do them differently. It'll be cool, right? It'll be your own thing. Don't worry about it. And that's what Games Workshop did with 40k. So, trust me, I'm not the kind of person who's going to sit here and say Games Workshop are the worst company on planet Earth. They quite frankly are not. They make toy soldiers for a living, man. Are their business practices not very good at times? Yes. Are they anti-consumer almost all the time? Yes, also, yes. They nickel and dime you for everything that you're worth. They pass on costs to you that are not yours to bear. Let's be honest, they're not, right? They are not yours to bear. I've said this before when it comes to Games Workshop's pricing. Their prices have nearly doubled over the past 10 to 15 years, and your wages have not. Quite simply, right? Your wages have not doubled over the past 10 to 15 years, so why have Games Workshop prices doubled over the past 10 to 15 years? Go make it make sense. And before anyone talks about economy and the cost of doing business, no, right? If you're a good business, your process for making models should get easier, should get more streamlined, should get cheaper as you go on, and you get better at it. If your process gets more and more complicated and overwrought and costly, you're doing business wrong, quite simply. And passing that cost on to the consumer is not good practice and will lead to decimation eventually. But I want to talk about this, which is what I found the other day. Let me just whack this on here. So we've got it up. There we go. Right, so here we have Games Workshop stock price. And I think we can all see that in terms of their stock price here, this is its lifetime stock price. So good for you if you got in 1996. And you kept those stock, because you're quite a wealthy person right now if you had a lot of stock. But in terms of Games Workshop stock price, we can see a gradual increase here, right? This is around the time, around here, around 2018, right, here. This is around the time that Games Workshop started to release or tease 8th edition, right? So we're here, 2017. I was with the company at this time, so I saw all this happening firsthand. I was literally there at the, not the meetings, but at the retail workshops where we were told, hey guys, we're going to be doing 8th edition, we're going to be changing the game, everything's going to be completely different, we're going to make it way more mainstream, way more easy to get into, and we're going to get a lot more people in the door through that, right? And they were utterly successful in doing that. This is why I say 8th edition for the company and 8th edition for the hobby, in my opinion, was a great edition. I really enjoyed 8th edition. Mainly because, yeah, it was the main one that I sold when I was working for Games Workshop. I also sold 7th edition, which I hated. You know, I mean, I didn't hate it. I hated the formations in it, and I thought the starter box set was a load of doo-doo. It was terrible. Dark Vengeance was awful as a starter box set. Do you like Dark Angels? No? This box set isn't for you then, is it? So, yeah, wasn't really my thing at all. But Games Workshop took that feedback. All of their managers gave them that feedback, right? And they took that feedback and went, you know what we'll do? We'll release Dark Imperium with generic Space Marines, new Space Marines, right? And Death Guard, the new big thing that we're bringing out on the Chaos side of things. So if you want Chaos, you're going to want Death Guard. They're new, they're cool, they're awesome, right? And if you like the game, you'll want these new Space Marines. That's where we are, okay? And you see this growth almost immediately. They announce 8th edition's coming in around September of 2017. They announce it's coming, it's on its way the next year, right? They sort of, they don't do it officially, but they put it out there that it's on its way, you know, there's something coming. And all of a sudden, the stock prices start to increase as people within the company are told, hey, it's coming. We're doing 8th edition, and it's going to blow everybody's socks off, right? Then we get into 2018, and all of a sudden, bang, look at that. See this big jump here? This big, massive jump here, that is 8th edition, right? This is 8th edition here. Look at that, right? Right up. Now, Games Workshop's not seen growth like that in such a short period of time, ever, on this graph here. Not ever. Not once, right? And then we come back down to aggregate again. We start to come down to aggregate. And then what happens? What happens, folks? We all know what happens. The pandemic happens! Yes, and look at what happens to Games Workshop stock price. Okay? So, what I'm saying is, in general, Games Workshop have been very, very, very good at capitalizing on natural market growth. They're capitalizing on their, shall we say, how do I put this? The shifting paradigms that are happening around the company. Okay? They look at the scenery of what's going on, they smell where the money is, and they go there. That's where they go, right? That's basically where they go. But the one thing that alarms me is you can see a trend here, okay? And this trend will peter out eventually, as all things do. This right here is the pandemic, right? Then we have 9th edition. Right around here, 9th edition. Brilliant. Do you see a massive jump? I don't. 9th edition basically just papers over the cracks, right? It makes sure that the numbers stay the same. And after 9th edition, we're down here again, right? We start averaging out. You know? Then we have 10th edition. Bang! And we're up here again. We're seeing another big growth spurt, right? Yeah? And of course, we're into the December months of this year. Things go up again because we're in this is our first Christmas. Well, not first Christmas, but this is our Christmas time. So things go up again, right? That is a really good spike up there, right? Games Workshop are incredibly good at seeing the way the wind is blowing and releasing new things at the right time. Right. Also, this spike here, Amazon. Amazon, right? 29th of November. Right, we were all here for the announcement, right? It's actually happening. The Amazon thing is happening, right? It's all happening. It's all going to be all right. Henry Cavill's going to save the universe, folks, right? Everybody was here for that. What I'm saying is that outside factors are pushing Games Workshop's growth. This is what I'm saying. The outside factors are pushing Games Workshop's growth. And even their new additions are technically outside factors. Why? Because that's not a sustainable thing. You can't release a new edition every year because you'll get a law of diminishing returns. People will just stop buying it and it becomes less special, right? So Games Workshop spikes are related to what? Right? 8th edition down here. The pandemic over here. The stagnation of 9th edition over here. And 10th edition over here. And an Amazon deal over here. Right? That's what I'm seeing. None of these things are happening in-house. These are all things that are necessities, right? It is absolutely necessary for Games Workshop to release a new edition of 40k, right? And you will always get a spike for that, eventually, right? And the Amazon deal, right? You're always going to get a spike for that too. What I'm not seeing is consistent, steady. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not seeing something like this down here. I know this seems really odd for me to pick this out, but this down here, right, in the bad old days of Games Workshop, of their stock price, right, that is still kind of consistent growth. The numbers are going up, right? The numbers are going up. They go down eventually, of course, because of Games Workshop's own decisions, but they do, you know, they wander around, they go up, and, you know, it's steady growth. And we see here, a little bit here, there are parts of steady growth within Games Workshop here. But the main growth that we see are from mainline releases, and of course for the Amazon deal and news that is external to Games Workshop. That's the main part of their shall we say, their success that I see as mainly quite hollow and can be seen as a bit of a warning sign, right? Whenever this is why game development is so fraught with risk and danger. In the video game industry, all of your turnover is based on certain spikes. We released a game, spike, and now we're not doing that anymore for the next 5 years. So you're losing money, 5 years. You know, then a spike again. You released another game. You know, that's why there's so many layoffs in the gaming industry. I don't want to see that happen to Games Workshop. I don't want to see that happen to you know, the hobby in general, because for better or for worse, Games Workshop, they are the hobby lads, let's be honest with him, right? So, what does this mean for us? The guys who are here from the start, buying Games Workshop products, having fun, doing games, things like that. What does it mean for us? Well, it means when Games Workshop see numbers like this, let's be honest, what was the main decision that we were told by Kevin Roundtree as staff around this time? Around this time down here. Remember what I said earlier on in the video? Right? Dude, I was in those rooms when we were told by trainers and the head of retail and word from Big Kev himself, right? We're going mainstream. We're going mainstream. We're going to take the company, we're going to take Warhammer 40,000, we're going to shave off its rough edges, and we're going mainstream. We're going to do 8th edition, it's going to have Primaris Marines in it, it's going to have Guilliman in it, We're going to have this big Saturday morning cartoon feel to Gilliman's Adventures, right? We're going to take out the blood and guts, and we're going to go mainstream. And you know what? One thing we can say, all of us, right? It's been successful. I don't think any of us can sit here and say it wasn't successful. It was, right? They're making money hand over fist for their partners, for their investors, which is what they're there to do. They are a publicly traded company, right? It's right there in the name. But what they did also is they left us behind. The actual hobbyist, the actual dude who kept the company going, went through all of these years. Remember these years? I do, right? Remember these years where Games Workshop was not listening to us whatsoever and actually kind of hated us, right? They still do, by the way. Right? When they didn't even feign to listen to us. This point here, you know? And this is what I mean about, you know, when people saying back in the day where they're like, oh, they're so woke now and this and that, it doesn't matter, they're not making that much money. Dude, they are. They're making a lot of money. And pretending otherwise is not going to help the issue, right? They are making a lot of money. But again, they're not really making money from the people that they're chasing. They're making money from us. More people are coming into the hobby because they are geniuses at making sure that there's more water going into the bucket than is flowing out of the bucket through the holes in the bottom of it, right? I've used that analogy ad nauseum on the channel before. Games Workshop see the hobby as a bucket with several holes in the bottom of it. That's the hobby. Filling the bucket with water makes the hobby work. It makes sure the hobby's still a thing. So, they turn the tap on at the top, the bucket starts to fill up, but also it starts to lose water out the bottom of it, right? Games Workshop are amazing at pumping water into that bucket. They're not very good at poking less holes in the bottom of it, right? They're not very good at retention, is what I'm saying. All of these numbers are fragile to me because they represent people getting into the hobby and then leaving. Why do you think you see a massive downward spike after you've released a new edition? You get an upwards turn and then downwards again. You get an upwards turn and then downwards again. Every single time. Look at these, right? March 2020, bang, down again. We rise up. Pandemic, new edition, bang, down again. We rise up, new edition. We're starting to go down, and then the Amazon deal happens, and we're up again. But now we're coming back down again. As you can see, we're going to be down here somewhere. Around around where we were in January of 2023, right? We're going back down to those numbers, right? It's a rolling hill. And these are people who are coming into the hobby. They buy in, but they don't stick around. It's not sustainable. They don't stick around. They come in, they buy their starter box set, they get into the hobby for a bit, and then they shelve it. They walk away, right? Because the prices are too much. The time commitment is too much. They can't get into it. And this is the absolute dichotomy of Games Workshop's argument here. And this is why I find them so frustrating to cover. Because I can sit here all day and say this shouldn't be working. I've had economists on my Discord tell me that it's not going to work eventually, right? But then you look at the numbers, and I'm sorry, but it is working. Like, they're making money hand over fist, man. They're doing really, really, really well. Right? But the underlying coverage that I hear from people who know more about the economy than I do, know more about business than I do, they say, no, Games Workshop's success is very fragile and is dependent on momentary releases. It's dependent on momentary releases of capital. Because they release a new edition, they get a bump, right? They announce an Amazon deal, they get a bump. But these things can't happen constantly. They can't, right? You will have lulls where you have a year or two of nothing. And when those things happen, look what happens to their stock price. It tanks. It goes down. It starts to go down to where we were before 8th edition, right? What they're saying is, whenever I speak to people about this, who know more about it than I do, is that this is not sustainable. This is artificial. It is held up by a chasing of a trend. It's held up by Games Workshop chasing new money, rather than retaining the money that they've already got. That's why you're seeing such an up and down curve there, right? Now, the Amazon deal makes things look a lot more sweeter because it's gone straight up here, right? Because a lot of people bought into it. But without the Amazon deal, without that going on and saying that it's actually happening, we're seeing a downward spiral again. We were on our way down again, right? We were on our way down to where we were down here at the start of 8th edition. It's momentary, and that's what people are saying, okay? It's something that they're chasing new people, and those new people aren't really sticking around. Do you want to know why they're not sticking around? Not really. Because they're not getting into Warhammer 40k for the right reasons. Now, that's going to sound really, really controversial. But bear with me, okay? Bear with me. Warhammer 40k is grimdark. It's a grimdark setting with a grimdark atmosphere and with an Imperium that is right-rooted in the, you know, the early noughties. It's in the John Blanche crew of things, right? It is the Alan Blythe way of doing things at Games Workshop. It is the heavy metal magazines. It is that is 40k, right? Badab is 40k. Horus Heresy is 40k, right? Ironically, even though it's not 40k, but you know what I mean, right? That's 40k. The grim darkness of the far future. There is only war. That is Warhammer 40,000. Now, is there really only war? I've said this about grimdark settings in the past. No. It is a misnomer. That there are lots and thousands of worlds in 40k that are really pleasant to live on, and those are the ones we're fighting to protect, right? You know, but at the same time, the actual setting, that's what it is. It is only war. That's where we are, right? It is a grim, dark setting where we're fighting to protect the last vestiges of light in a dying universe. It's awesome. It's epic. But that's not what your modern-day 40k fan gets into 40k for, right? They get into 40k because they look at a Primaris Space Marine, read about Rabute Gilliman, and think that that's kind of badass. And you know what? It is. But it's not grimdark. It's not grimdark, right? But people wonder why Games Workshop has this disdain for its old fans. And it does, doesn't it? Let's be honest. It does. Games Workshop does not like you. Or me, actually. Especially not me. But, like, not you. It doesn't like you. Like, not at all. Yeah? It does not like you. Why? Well, look at the number 2015 at the bottom there and backwards. And that's why it doesn't like you. That's why. Controversial? Yeah, absolutely. But that's why it doesn't like you, right? Because we didn't give them the astronomical success that they felt like they deserved and they wanted. We didn't do any of this. This isn't us. Part of it is, trust me, we're still there. We are in these numbers buying shit. Because the new editions come out and we all get them. I got the Leviathan box set, right? Yeah? We're still there. We're still in here. But there are lots of new people coming in. New people coming in because we're getting them into... By the way, there are other factors here that we're not looking at, right? Brother Alpha Busa. Around 2016, 2017. Absolute height of his popularity. Yeah? 40k lore channels like Arch Warhammer, people like that. They get to the absolute zenith of their rise to popularity, although they still remain popular, in this period, where we're seeing a massive upturn in numbers. Games Workshop see the way the wind is blowing, and they release 8th edition, which blasts open the doors. 8th edition, to me, is the most important edition Warhammer 40,000 and Games Workshop have ever brought out. It was the seismic sea change that changed tabletop wargaming forever. Because it took the complicated systems of 7th edition, it filed down its hard edges, right? It kept some of its complexity and re-released it in a package that was easily digestible and easily playable, and the rules were free. For the first time, the main rules, core rules, you could download them for free. That was the sea change. Bringing in the Primaris Marines 2, the Marines refresh, that's where we start to see things take off, right? That was a genius move, in my opinion. I was there for this. I saw it happening. Dude, those guys are dynamic. Like, the way that they think, they saw the way... That wasn't planned, and it was planned about a year or two in advance. No more than that, though, right? No more than that. Absolutely no more than that. So they saw the way that the things were changing. They saw the way YouTube was taking over. They got in on that shit. They did Warhammer TV, right? They started to send out packages and things and models to certain YouTubers who would toe the company line to bust up their names even further. People like Tabletop Tactics, dudes like that, right? They started to ingratiate themselves to certain content providers. And they're really, really, really good at sniffing blood in the water. That's what Games Workshop do. And they put their hands in, and they take the money for all it's worth. And they did it with 8th edition, and they completely changed the hobby forever. And that's where we see this. Now, if the pandemic doesn't come along, this doesn't happen. I'm telling you now, if the pandemic in 2020 does not come along, this does not happen. We all know that. Games Workshop had a massive, massive upsurge in business. They were one of the real winners of the pandemic. I know that sounds wrong, but they were, right? They are one of the real winners. Because you can see here, look. February 2020, right? And March 2020, where are we? Look at where we are in March 2020. Look where the dot is. It's on its way down, right? It's on its way down there. That's where it is. You can see it. My cursor is on it, right? And it's on its way down to pre-8th edition numbers. So really, 8th edition was a big success, but what does that show you? They've lost all those new players. They're not buying anymore. They brought out 8th edition, and it made good money, but now they're back down towards the numbers that they had at the start. So what was the point? Do you know what I'm saying? That is where we are, and Games Workshop's attitudes haven't changed. They're still the same. But then the pandemic hits, March 2020, the pandemic hits, and look where we go. Bang, we're up here now, right? But the numbers start to come down again, and then bang, 9th edition, right? 9th edition isn't as good as people think it was going to be. In fact, it was awful. Numbers start to come down again, right? Bang, 10th edition, we're back up again. Numbers start to come down again as people start to lose enthusiasm for it, as we go through the cycle of Games Workshop doing the same thing all over again. And then bang, Amazon deal. Yeah? You can trade it by, you can see it by events that are happening. And that's good for the short term. If you want money in the short term, that's good. But if you want to make money for the next 10, 15, 20 years, and Games Workshop do, by the way, that is their mission statement. I've said it many times. I've still got the little black book. One day, when I have the balls, I will sit down on a stream and I will read it. You know, but I don't really have the balls to do so because I might get sued. But the little black book is what you get when you become a Games Workshop manager. It is written by Games Workshop. It is the Bible of what the company is, what it's about, and what they want to do. Yeah? And they don't sugarcoat anything in there. It is literally, alright, you want to know how the sausage is made? Here it is. And they give you a little black book with an indent of it's like a little guardsman's notebook, right? You open it up, and the first thing it tells you is Games Workshop's official mission statement. It has an unofficial mission statement, which is on the website, right? That's not the official one. The official one is, we want to continue. You know, for those of you who don't know, a mission statement is what a company sets out to do, right? Every company has one. Right, the mission statement of Games Workshop is, and I quote, right, we want to make the greatest tabletop wargaming miniatures in the world, and we want to continue doing this forever, unquote. That is their mission statement. Now, I cannot tell you that their decisions that they've made have been antithetical to that. They're not, right? They're literally trying to live up to what they are. My point is that when you rely on such momentary bounces in your stock price to drive profits, that is not sustainable, right? Pandemics don't come around every 10 to 15 years for you to milk Games Workshop. There needs to be a more sustainable model. Amazon deals don't come around every 10 to 15 years for you to milk Games Workshop. If we take away the pandemic and the Amazon deal, we're down here somewhere. We might even be below 8th edition, considering the decisions that Games Workshop have made, right? But here's the thing. I think Games Workshop have realised something, at least in the short term. They don't need to make you happy. They don't need to make you happy. Because you're not the mainstream. The mainstream is Amazon, right? The mainstream is, things like the pandemic. They don't need you. They don't really need you as somebody who buys their models. They don't. They don't need to please you. All of this, in their opinion, was them trying to please you. Right? From 1994, down there, all the way over to 2017. I'm just saying, by the way, just saying. Let me go on a bit of an ego trip. I joined the company in around September 2016, and look where the numbers went. Just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's all down to me. No, I'm joking. But they don't need to acquiesce to you, and I think they've realised that, because acquiescing to you, the numbers are around here somewhere, right? Doing 8th edition, bringing more models out, pushing Warhammer 40k forwards a bit in timeline. This is where the numbers would be if they acquiesced to you. Yeah? This is where they'd be. Around here somewhere. Really good profits, making really good money, absolutely. But this is where their profit margin would be around about, right? If they acquiesce to you and to me, right? This is where it goes if they acquiesce to the mainstream. And they chase that sweet Amazon money. And they chase the momentary, that they push up all of the prices. They push up everybody's prices. Right? Because that's what mainstream success allows them to do. Raise the prices. It's more in demand now. So get your wallet out. Get your wallet out. We'll tell you that the process to make models has gotten more expensive. It hasn't. But we'll lie to you. And you'll pay for it anyway. Because you've got to have the latest, shiniest thing. Right? That's why we release these new editions. As soon as we see the numbers go down, we pump out a new edition. As soon as we see the numbers go down, we pump out a new edition. That's where we are. So Games Workshop's success, at least to me, doesn't involve us. It involves mainstream money. It involves mainstream media. It will involve merchandise rather than models. That's where we're going to be heading towards, right? Games Workshop is kind of losing sight of its main mission statement. Because remember, they talk about wargaming models there, right? But have you seen these Joy Toys that are coming out? Do you know how well they're selling? Because I do. I do. I think we are a year or two away from Games Workshop releasing actual action figure lines of Warhammer 40,000. Like full lines. Yeah? Getting into that market. Tapping into a new market of kids. Brand new. Right? I think we're a year or two away. And they'll be good toys too. They'll be good toys, very expensive. And they'll be the newest, hottest thing that everybody wants. And they're going to leave us behind. Because you know why, lads? Here's the tragedy of it. I can understand why they're doing it. Dude, if you were giving me this kind of money, you bet your ass. Like, if somebody said to me, North, I will pay you £200,000 a year for the next 10 years, right? If you make video game content, you switch from doing Warhammer content to doing video game content, you bet your ass I'd be doing fucking video game hobby nightmares. Like I probably have enough content to only do three or 2 episodes a week, but I'd be doing that. Because it's a fiscal decision that I have to make for my family, right? I think you'd all make the same decision as well. You'd leave your core audience high and dry. You'd be like, okay, this is too much money. I need to go and do this. I will explain to my audience why I'm doing this, and they will have the opportunity to stay or go. But this is what I'm doing. This is where the money is, right? But I'd explain it to you. Games Workshop didn't even give you an explanation. They just did it. They just left. they just left, right? Their models aren't their main thing anymore. Their settings, that's their main thing. That's their cash cow. And I think they've realised, right? Warhammer, there's been too many signs. Far too many signs that the model side of the business isn't what's driving them. Warhammer Total War. Massive cash cow for no work. Games Workshop did next to nothing to do that, right? Massive cash cow. Joy Toys, massive cash cow. They didn't do anything to do that. They just sold the license. They make their money residually. That's what they do. They're a silent partner. That's what they do, right? Amazon deal. Again, what are they actually doing to make the Amazon series? Very little. Very little. But Amazon are making it, but Games Workshop are having their product pushed in front of so many people, and they're making so much money from the Amazon deal. Residually. Just by sitting there, by doing nothing. By being the guys who made Warhammer. Very similar to the Tolkien estate, right? Guy was a genius, but his estate makes money for doing nothing. As rightly it should, by the way. You know, they made something awesome. Well, he made something awesome. But that's... I think Games Workshop are realising the mainstream money is just a lot easier to get. It's a lot easier to please the mainstream by just regurgitating slop and cutting off all of the hard edges of Warhammer 40,000. It's much easier to please them, to please the modern audience, quote-unquote, even though those aren't the people giving them the money. It's a lot easier to please them than it is to please us. And they get more money for pleasing them than they do for pleasing us. Yeah? They get far more money making licensing their thing from video games and Amazon TV series and action figures and toys. They get far more money doing that. Easier money. Straight profit, hand over fist, when they don't have to make anything, than they do actually making their own models and having to sell them to moaning bastards like us. Let's be honest. Alright? We're hard to please. And we're aggravating to deal with at times. You be honest. I know that because I've dealt with you. I've been on the other side of this fence. I've been on the other side of this wall dealing with dickheads like you. Sorry, lads, but I've been there. It's not fun. It's not fun. Right? And if you've given Games Workshop a way out where they don't need to do that anymore, you bet your ass they will take that and run to the hills. Right? Because I'm one of them. I'm hard to please, man. I'm hard to please. And I'm quick to judge because I've been mistreated by Games Workshop for years. So wouldn't it be better for them to just jettison me and people like me and go to the mainstream and make all of this money? Because they're still making money from us. Every time they release a new edition, that's where these little spikes come from. It's us. This is us. We're here. This whole sea change here is them going mainstream, right? But these little spikes are us. Buying shit. Overpriced shit. So what's my takeaway? Well, mainly, to me, this isn't that sustainable. This isn't as sustainable as people seem to think it is, right? It's relying on spikes brought by their abuse of their pricing, their abuse of their customers, with new editions of the game whenever they need to sling one out. The pandemic and Amazon deals. These are all external factors. Aside from, of course, the new editions. But if you take away the Amazon deal and the pandemic, these numbers halve. At least halve, right? And they're down here somewhere, around the 5,000 mark. They at least halve. Going down towards where they were at 8th edition, right? Because if they chose to just do business with their main customer base, us, this is where we'd be hovering around. They'd still be doing well. The numbers would still have gone up. Kevin Roundtree would still have done an amazing job, right? Absolutely amazing job. Because look where the numbers went. And they would stay around here. They wouldn't go down towards 2015 numbers. They'd stay around here somewhere, you know? Around the 3,000 to 5,000 mark. They'd be around here somewhere. And everyone would be happy and singing Kumbaya. Obviously not. We're all hobbyists. We're all really hard to please. But they'd still be making very, very, very good money, right? But with the pandemic and with the Amazon deal, this is where we are. This is the reality, right? And as soon as Games Workshop sniff that they're going down towards pre-8th edition numbers again, they release a new edition. It's just all they do. It's doping. It's basically doping, right? That's what they do. It's like an athlete doping their own muscles, right? This is what they do. Human growth hormone. Whoa, we're up again, right? It ain't natural, is what I'm saying. This is not natural. And without the pandemic, and without the Amazon deal, we at least halve these numbers. So Games Workshop are sniffing the fact that if they go mainstream, these are the numbers they're going to make. And you know what the real tragedy is? They're right. They're right. The more they go down the Joy Toy route, the more they go down going with developers that make really good video games for their settings, the more they go down the route like people like Amazon and people like that who make well, we don't know yet, but you know, will make really good TV shows. The more they go more mainstream, the more money they make residually for doing very little for their shareholders, and the more they don't need to listen to people like us. How many newbies who are watching, you know, Secret Level and the new Amazon show and who got into the hobby in the pandemic actually stuck around? That the numbers will be very low. As you can see, the numbers back me up, right? As you can see, they didn't stick around. The numbers went down again. They didn't stick around. And they never will. As long as 40k stays grim, dark, and edgy, as it is, they never will stick around. Because a lot of people bounce straight off of it. It's not mainstream. I've made this point before. It's not mainstream. But when you do make it mainstream, this sharp turn downwards here will start to level out. Because more people will stick around. They're geniuses, man. They know what they're doing. They're jettisoning their old fan base for corporate money, for Amazon money, for new age money. That's what they're doing. So whilst Games Workshop's success might be great for people like The Times, who think Kevin Roundtree is their business person of the year, my God. You know, and you got things, you know, whilst it's all good for them, and it's all good for Games Workshop, the people who lose, as always, are me and you. We're the losers here. Because the prices are going to go up. By the way, have you ever seen a company have this much in terms of share price raise their prices as much as Games Workshop do? Because they need the money, quote unquote, to make their models? Fuck off, man. Whenever somebody hits you with that argument, show them this graph. Please. Whenever somebody has the balls to try and make that argument, show them this graph. Your process is getting cheaper, your models should be getting cheaper. Or at least stagnant in price. Cheeky bastards, right? That is how much they don't value you. They value the Amazon money, they don't value yours. Get your wallet out, chub. Get your wallet out. That's what they think, right? So whilst it's good for Games Workshop that they're doing well, it might even be good for Wargaming as a whole that they're doing well. It's not good for me and you. Because the prices are going to continue going up. And we're going to be seeing a lot more predatory practices. As we see, those spikes are not good. Those spikes at Games Workshop going, haha, they bailed us out again. We were on a downward slope, but haha, good old hobbyists. Always there, aren't they, with their wallets out. We'll gouge them again. And they'll continue to do so. This success is for Games Workshop stockholders only. Right? And the people who do business with them. It's them. They're up there now. They're not one of us anymore. Okay? They're not niche anymore. They're not our little thing anymore. They're this massive conglomerate. And they have no inclination or need or want to appease us or do business with us anymore. That's where we are. And that's where I think we'll continue going in 2025, which is why I implore you, if you don't like this, vote with your wallet, go elsewhere, do other things. Try Battletech, try one-page rules, right? Get your models second-hand. Even go to shops that have a really good deal with Games Workshop, right? Mine does, down the road. They keep it, you know, they get their models at a really, really, really good price. Because they've been friends with them for ages. And I buy the odd thing from there. Do things like that. Try not to give money to this company hand over fist. Because all you're going to do is encourage practices like this. That's all you're going to do, man. Best of luck to GW, because they don't need the luck these days. Because, dude, they are geniuses, man. They are very, very, very clever. I know, because I've seen them at work. They are very clever. They know what they're doing. Alright, this company is going to make money hand over fist. If you have the money to buy into a company, buy into this one. They know how to gouge their customers, and their customer base is never going away. It's never, ever going away. You know, what other company has a built-in parachute like this? That when their latest scheme starts to lose steam, like their Amazon deal starts to lose steam, or the new edition, the pandemic starts to lose steam, we're right there, aren't we? We're right there to bail them out when the new edition comes out. Here's your money, Games Workshop. What other company has that? Very, very few. Anyway, congrats to Games Workshop on their success. I wish them all the best, because, you know, they're a British company. They pay taxes into our state, so good luck to them. I hope they do well. But in terms of their success, passing it down towards us, the people who actually keep the lights on most of the time, no. They're never going to do that. Because why would they? Why would they? Anyway, I love you a long time. I'll be back tomorrow for some more hobby nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you very, very, very soon, alright? Have a good one. Bye now.